Okay.
All right, y'all ready?
Super ready.
I'm going to throw us in the intro, and then we'll just kick it off. Already coming with the DJ. All right. Welcome to the Brightful Podcast, where we help you stay happy and inspired to create your... The laugh is still going.
Still going.
Hold on. There we go. Okay.
There, I got it. It's off.
All right, ready? Actually, for cameras. All right. Y'all good?
Good.
I'm going to throw in.
Should we clap again?
No.
Stop.
All right, welcome to the Brightful Podcast, where we help you stay happy and inspired to create your best work. We are Brightful. We're a branding and marketing studio hanging out here at the 1904, specifically in Flourish Tap Room, our favorite local spot. And if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, you'll see this really fantastic setup behind this. Shout out to Flourish for letting us hang out here, so we super appreciate it. For links to everything that we talk about, it's going to be on our website, thebrightful.co. That's us. That's the whole thing. Let's dive in, boys. This is Jonathan Maloney, Timmy Allen. My name is Alan Dragoo, and we're just going to hang out here for a little bit. We hope you guys enjoy this, but how you boys doing this morning?
Good, man. We've been trying to do this for a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute. We had this set up before, tested some stuff, but now we're back in. We're inspired. We're ready to go. We're in.
You know what it was? It was vacation mode hit. We got everything set up. We again, we're here at Flourish Tap Room in Brazelton. We set all this up and then got busy with vacations. I think you went on vacation, then I went on vacation, then you went on vacation.
Yep.
And just our schedules just were not cooperating with the idea of doing a podcast. But
And you mentioned that we are in Flourish, and you mentioned that we're in Brazelton, Georgia. Hopefully, some people who are listening to this aren't from Georgia or aren't from Brazelton. We really we value local businesses. So if there's like a tap room, if there's like a coffee shop, if there's a record shop, anything local in your town, we would suggest and encourage you to go visit them. Local businesses are super important.
yeah, I find a ton of my
communities.
there's a lot more like natural inspiration that happens when you've got a local coffee shop like Houston Coffee, and a local tap room like Flourish, and we got a comic book shop upstairs. We got a record shop upstairs. So it's always like to find a place inside your town, your city, your place that you can go to and you're comfortable in. Just I wish we could cue the theme song to Cheers, because that's
Where everybody knows your name.
That's right. That's right.
This, we're, for everybody listening to this, we're like 2 minutes in and we've plugged like 8 things. We're not plugging these things because we are looking for sponsorships or anything like that. They actually inspire us tremendously. We are in this tap room because this is probably one of the most inspiring spaces that we spend a majority of our time in.
Yeah.
We create, write, and think and do all of these things in a tap room. And so shouting out local places like that is simply like the key of inspiration, at least to me.
Yeah.
Not to mention, like, if you talk to like a business owner of like a small business, the reason that they're doing what they're doing, sure, they probably want to make money, like obviously, but like that's not the driving force. Like, it's usually passion. So like, even if you're at a local spot, like find the owner and just talk and say, hey man, like why, or woman, why'd you decide to do this? And you'll probably get a really inspiring like story of why and how that they're they're there.
It's usually not like, oh well, I just really wanted to drain this town for some money,
Right.
Because I want XYZ. Like we're good friends with Mike who owns the place, and having any conversation with him is always inspiring because he's just like, no man, I want to make this town something that it wasn't before I got here. I want to make it better. I want to be a part of the culture, be a part of the community. I want to offer, comedy nights and murder mystery nights and stuff like that. So
all about community. And speaking of inspiration.
Oh,
great transition.
Oh my gosh.
I love it. Hey, great segue. I love that. Speaking of inspiration, we hope to give you guys a ton of inspiration. We go around talking about the things that inspired us. We hit that in the intro. J-Mo, you started us. Why don't you go ahead and kick us off? You got something?
I do, actually. And for anybody who knows me, this feels like I'm cheating. Any conversation I have about like design or creative, the longer you have a conversation with me about it, I'm always going to end up talking about this. So there was let me make sure I don't mess up the name. So in Atlanta a few years ago, there was a thing called Creative Mornings, and it's when a bunch of creatives get together, and it's usually sponsored by like MailChimp or or some creative leader in
like Adobe. I think it was sponsored by Adobe.
They're still going on now. COVID kind of made it weirder, but like a few years ago, there was a creative morning, and the speaker was this guy named Jacob Escobedo. And so Jacob was the creative director for Cartoon Network's Adult Swim. This dude was making the creative decisions for that, and this was in its prime too. And so his talk at the creative morning was about how his work stands out from everyone else's. And what it is when he was a kid, he was growing up in New Mexico, and him and his family had just moved there, and they met the neighbors, and the neighbors invited them over for dinner or lunch. And he remembers playing in the yard with these kids and having a good time, but it was nothing like nothing was standing out to him, right? So it's just a memory that would probably be gone the next day. What he remembers next is him looking up, and there's a refrigerator in the middle of their backyard, right? Which is visually, it's like, well, that's weird, right? So that instantly stands out. And then he looks on top of the refrigerator, and there's a decapitated goat head on it, just bleeding.
This wind sounds so fast.
Right. So it's like he's like, oh, like there's a literal decapitated bloody goat head on this refrigerator. Come to find out, culturally, that family killed one of their goats to eat, so that like it was for them to have a meal for their new friends. So he said, okay, that memory is in my head forever. Yeah. So if it was just the yard, I would have forgotten about it. If it was just the refrigerator, sure, I might remember it, but it wouldn't be a main memory of mine. It's that random bloody goat head on this fridge. So when you take that into creative work, let's say like something as simple as like a magazine ad, right?
Yeah.
You could. There's certain,
I see where you're going with this.
So like there's there's ways that you can design a magazine ad that are correct, and it looks like every other magazine ad. But if you add something that's quote unquote not supposed to be there, that ad instantly is in somebody's brain. Even if it's like, well, this text in the top corner is like neon orange and tiny and like upside down. Yeah. It shouldn't be there. Obviously, it would still need to work visually, but it's like, let's think about extra things that we can add. So it's like it can take something as easy as like a business card, like do something weird. And like that's the reason you design, that's the reason we make art, is to stick out and stay with someone. So it's the bloody goat head method.
Yeah, I love that. You said what's something we can add for the bloody goat head method. Have you ever just not added something, but you just tweaked something so wild?
Yeah.
Kept it just super simple. And
it could literally be tiny. Like it like I know, so this is a small design nerdy thing, but like let's say I'm doing a headline and the headline ends with an exclamation mark, right? Exclamation?
Yeah, exclamation.
Exclamation mark. And so like the word itself isn't italicized, right? But the exclamation mark it is, right? So that's such a small thing, but like,
is this like the Google bloody go ahead where like the E is tilted to be a smiley face?
Yeah.
Smiley face, whatever.
Right. Yeah. It's a quirk.
Yeah.
It's a quirk. Art is not supposed to be perfect. And when it is perfect, it's not memorable. And so it's like, how do you combine?
Oh, that's a good line.
Commercial
tweet
art.
That.
Let's tweet it right now. Stop. Press stop. No.
We've done it.
But it's just, I mean, it is something like I appreciate you guys pretending that I haven't told you this 100 times, but it is such a core value of mine as a designer, as an artist. Like, I don't know. So yeah,
that's really good.
Yeah.
I think we designed our whole website, shameless plug, brightfulco.com. I'll put it in the show. I think we designed our whole website.
No, it's the Brightful
yeah,
Co.
you literally just
I was literally like, wait,
URL.
I think he got the URL wrong.
Thebrightful.co.
Thebrightful.co.
Thanks,
Out of
boys.
anyone in this room to mess that up, something's wrong.
You know what just happened, though? We landed 30 seconds of that instead of 3 seconds of that, so I don't actually think that was bad.
Fair.
Bam.
Done.
Wow, he did that on purpose.
And then he made me look like a fool.
What a marketing genius. Man.
Yeah. So when we built the website, I think I heard the term bloody goat head 98 times before we had our coffee.
Yes.
Because everything was just like, what if we just a little, and it just has those touches. I love that story.
Yeah.
Every time you tell it, it is like I heard it for the first time.
Good,
You don't
man.
have to pretend.
That's awesome.
And you're such a good communicator.
I am a good
You know what I
communicator.
mean?
People who know me, that's the first thing they
They're
think.
like, Jonathan, he's a good communicator.
He's a really good
If I took
communicator.
anything out of my time with Jonathan, it's that nobody communicates like Jonathan.
Amen.
We'll link Creative Mornings because I think they still gather.
They
and
still
stuff, right?
they still gather. Shout out to Matchstick. I think.
Oh, cool.
I think I want to say their principal Blake something.
I think he just dropped a book.
He did drop a book.
Yeah.
There. I mean, anyone from Atlanta, anyone in the design community knows Matchstick, knows Blake. So shout out to you guys. You've inspired me for literally 12 years.
Great. I love that story. Transition. Timmy, you got one?
I do got one. Mine's more about like times when I feel kind of like uninspired and feeling like I've got this idea, or I've been put on this project, or we got this client, and I'm just like, man, how the heck are we gonna freaking pull this off? Because just for a number of reasons, whether it's like we've never done something like this before, or we've done something like this before, but maybe it's at a larger scale than we've ever done before. There's always this movie that I watch, and it's a documentary. And I'd say I've probably watched it. I'll usually watch it like once a year or once every 18 months. And
For how long? How many years have you been doing this?
Well, this I'm gonna look at it. So I was living in Florida, so it was before I was married.
Okay.
So it had to be like 2012 maybe is when this came out. Let's see if I got that right. But anyway, it was 2012. Dang, I was dead on. Good for me.
Bro, killing it.
Good for you.
So the documentary is called Indie Game the Movie. It follows a couple of indie game devs, and they've done like follow-ups with the devs since the original documentary came out. But it's a documentary that's showing me people like me, people that have a lot of like the same experiences that I had, like through school and then through college, and then like I was born in '82, so like I was around when like home entertainment systems and video games and Nintendo and all that stuff like first came around. So video games y'all know this about me. Video games have always been like a huge part of who I am. So
yeah, your Switch is literally over there.
Yeah, there you go.
It's always literally over there.
It's always literally right over there.
It's always near him.
So spoiler alert, episode 2, I'm going to talk about Splatoon 3.
Let's go.
I'm just kidding. I'm
What
not
a
going to do
tease.
We ready.
Yeah.
We
So
ready.
anyway, so this documentary just follows like 3 or 4 different teams making games. And the best part about it is it's always like, so like Super Meat Boy is one of the big games that they talk about. And that's a team of 2 people who made this beautiful, highly emotive to who they are and what they want to say to the world. And they made this thing, and it talks about the struggles and the troubles that they had getting it created and getting it published, and like what people were saying about it and what they were actually trying to do. So it follows them. It follows a dude named Phil Fish and his team. He made a game called Fez. And Phil,
The little jump game?
yeah. Phil, you're probably not watching because you kind of disappeared. But if you're out there, come back because we miss you. Well, at least I miss him. Anyway, so he built this game that honestly, like when he showed it off the first time, it like blew everybody's minds. And then every single journalist, like video game journalist, was like talking about this game. And like the pressure of all that got to be so much to this dude that like he got the game out and he kind of just like he reclused, like disappeared. But anyway, so I found this this documentary to be something that whenever I feel like I'm like uninspired or I'm not connecting with the task that I've got in front of me, the creative task in front of me, there's something about it. Like the soundtrack is fantastic. The visuals are fantastic. And again, and it's based on something that I love, which is video games. It's always been a dream for me to be able to be a part of a team that creates a video game. So watching like these small teams of like 1, 2, 4 people, like putting these experiences together and getting them posted and getting them live and seeing people react to them. Like there's something about that whenever I feel disenchanted, I'm like, all right, I'm feeling dry today. I don't know if I can do this. Like I'll watch it, like I said, once a year, once every 18 months, and it will literally like, I'll call it back. And it'll just give me some sort of solace in being like, well, these dudes could do it. They're just like me. There's only 3 of them, 4 of them, 2 of them, 1 of them, and and they're the passion and the ability to just go like, no, I'm going to make this thing and I'm going to focus on it, and it's going to be a good representation of me, and it's going to represent me out in the world for people to experience. Like, I love that. So
I think it says something where like watching somebody who's passionate about something do what they're passionate about
totally
is inspiring beyond belief. Even like, I think you said you found like solace in the fact that like, I think I've seen the documentary, but you could hold a gun in my head and I couldn't tell you anything about it. Except there was a game where there's something to do with a tower where like
that's Fez. I think that's Fez.
Okay. So that dude just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No, but like it's super interesting, or it's interesting that as artists, watching other artists either do well or going through the same pains that we go through, it gives us this like power of like, I'm not alone. It sounds so over romanticized, but it's like, I'm not alone. Yeah. Like, people are creating stuff isn't always fun. Yeah. I mean, Lord, us 3, we know that sometimes it just sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's super interesting.
I didn't want to scuff your Yeezys, man.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Seriously.
So drippy. So much drip on those Yeezys.
Also, shout out to Alan's Yeezys. Yay, if you're watching this.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
On YouTube.
In VR, maybe. Yeah. So you might be watching this on YouTube. If you've got a headset, we've got a VR camera because we're testing some stuff out. I don't know that I can make this statement, but we're looking to be the first podcast in VR. I'm sure there's
in Brazelton.
There you go.
For sure we can put in there.
Sure.
You put enough disclaimers, and we can make any statement we want.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something about you, Timmy, that always blows my mind. Is nothing can just be.
No.
So like we've been planning this podcast for quite a while, and we're okay, we have 2 cameras. We have 2 cameras. We have XYZ. And Timmy's like, I think I want to do like a what's it called?
VR?
A VR camera, which literally looks like a robot.
It does. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's pretty. He even put my shoes under it.
Yeah,
so
I took him away.
He moved
I took him away because you couldn't see him. But if you are in VR and you're looking and you look down, it looks like you're sitting in a chair with us. But anyway.
Sweet, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I came up with that idea this morning. I was like, oh, what if I put the VR camera up?
Again, something I love about you is that it can't just be.
No.
Hey, I do love the concept, the thing that inspires you. You picked something that gets you out of a rut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because that's kind of the synopsis of this entire podcast is I hope people are listening to this because they just need to stay continually inspired or motivated or figure out what does that. I think that's a great line for, if you're on YouTube, drop that in the comments. What inspires you? What gets you out of the rut? Is it an album? Is it a book? Is it a document? Where can we see this documentary, by the way?
It used to be on Netflix. I don't think it is anymore. I think now you can only get it on Prime.
Okay.
I'd have to
buy it for $2-3.
Here's what we'll do. We'll in the description. If it's streaming somewhere, we'll make sure to drop it in the description so you can check it out. A heads up, I have shared this documentary with a couple other friends that are creatives, and for whatever reason, I'm getting something out of it that I've experienced other people don't. So with a grain of salt, like it really works for me.
Yeah, just like Weezer works for Jonathan, but not for.
But yeah, so we'll put it in the description, and if you want to go check it out, do it. But also understand that it's again, it goes through all the struggle, it goes through all the excitement, it goes through all of that. But it also, like, Phil Fish is a character, and a lot of people don't like him, which is one of the reasons why I disappeared. But
let's go.
I don't know that I like him either, but he's just so flipping fascinating. I was like, I love this. But anyway, so yeah, we'll put it in the description.
I do love that. And Jonathan, I 1,000,000% agree with what you're saying. Like, it is so fascinating to see people just like go deep into like what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's super freaking inspiring just to navigate that. So I love that one.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Well,
Alan, what inspired you this week?
Well, I mean, we're at 20.
Let's wrap us up. I have one. I thought those were great. I was like, man, what do you do for the first episode? But I'm gonna do something current modern that I've been running into the last couple weeks. Actually, something that came across. Somebody shared this with me. They just sent me the link. And if you guys know anything about like fashion design or anything like that, a big name in fashion design is Jerry Lorenzo.
Okay.
Jerry Lorenzo is the designer for Fear of God. Fear of God, again, if you guys are in this world, you totally understand it. If not, it's like a small company that collaborates with people like Nike and Adidas. He's currently collaborating with Adidas. There's people in this world, like Kanye West has this circle of like designers. And in that circle are people like Don C., Jerry Lorenzo, Virgil Abloh, who passed away. Virgil Abloh did things like Off-White. He had an Off-White brand, big, like just like super design, hip culture, things like that. Jerry Lorenzo is like the very simple, clean version of that. And he just dropped what he calls his fall essential lines. And I'll throw some like screen record or something or whatever. We'll throw it in the show notes and in the description. But on fearofgod.com, somebody sent that to me, and his fall essentials lineup, and I'm going to show it to you guys because it's just so sick. He's just got these tones, and I'm showing them here. He's just got these tones and this simplicity. Yeah. But I was watching an interview of how he designed it on YouTube, and everything, again, as we're scrolling this, everything is just like real simple, real fall, like these off yellows, these off like taupe style tones, and like he does, he writes like essentials across, but it's also taupe on top of taupe. And then they're like fuzzy and they pop out and like a texture and whatnot. But I was watching this interview on YouTube where, actually I think I was watching Sneaker Shopping on Complex. Sounds about right, on brand. He was on Sneaker Shopping on Complex, but this was like an old episode, but he was talking about how he designed. And when he was talking about how he designed, this doesn't necessarily tie to his fall 2022 collection, but it definitely stems from it because you can see his values and whatnot. He talked about when he was talking to Kanye, when Kanye was like, I want you in my circle of designers, he wanted him in his circle of designers. He's like, because he picked up this white shirt. He's like, Kanye picked up this white shirt and was like, it's a white shirt, but I can see how much you've obsessed and poured into just this white shirt. Yeah. Because the way the neck falls on the neckline, the way the sleeves fall, the way that it drapes. And Jerry Lorenzo was like, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you for noticing that. Yeah. I appreciate you caring. And then I saw that episode, and then like literally a couple days later, he dropped his fall collection. I'm looking at his fall collection, and I was like, dude, this looks like just some... like it could be interpreted as like some rinky-dink, just another like H&M fall line. Nothing wrong with H&M. I wear this is H&M, and you can look at his work like that, or you could see it and be like, this dude obsessed hours over the material, the way it drapes on your sleeves, the way the hood falls, how big the logo is, how small the logo is, like all of that stuff was just obsessed over.
I think that's really cool because it's like this is. Again, I don't want to sound like the over-romanticizing artist, but it's like usually if a design is good, it's not what you see that makes it good, it's how you feel that makes it good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like it could be a T-shirt with a word on it, but it's like if this person who created it and ran it is passionately in love with it, you're gonna know that, and I think that's so like that's so rad.
It's like that example is really great. It's like you can look at fine art that way. People will look at different artists who do paintings and stuff, and they'll go, "Oh, my kid could have done that."
Yeah,
it's like sure, but your kid wasn't feeling what this artist was feeling and not putting themselves into it. Like it doesn't look meticulous, but it is. And again, with like online shopping, with like even I remember when Yeezy's line first came out, and it was everyone was just like, they're just like T-shirts. It's like, well, they look like they're just T-shirts,
like his Gap stuff
from here. Yeah. Because it's like it was like $90 for a T-shirt or whatever, and people are like losing their minds. And I'm sure it's the same thing with Jerry Lorenzo.
Yeah, definitely. But when you more on the higher end.
Yeah, but when you put it on, you're like, oh, this makes more sense because I'm experiencing it. I'm not like watching it from the outside. I'm putting it on. I'm feeling how the collar feels, how the neck feels, how the hood falls, how heavy the material is. It feels comfortable, or it feels light and airy. Like all that experience stuff is important.
Yeah, and the reason they can charge $100 for a black shirt is because they've spent spent the time obsessing over every thread, every collar fall, every sleeve. Like I think that I'm not going to roll out and buy a $100 shirt.
No.
but I respect it to death.
I love it. And most people won't, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even you shouting out the Yeezys earlier, I'm sure there's going to be people that are like, oh my gosh, I would never spend $200, $300, $400 on a pair of shoes or whatever it is. But things like that, there are things that like, especially in that world that I'm like, I just have so much respect for people that just obsess over their craft.
Yeah.
And talking, again, what you mentioned earlier, just in that tone, watching those videos, just watching the way he thinks, watching the way Kanye thinks when he designs a shoe or whatever it is, I'm just like, man, they are just like in it, not distracted by any means. They're not like doing a million things or just like trying to pump out a product. They're like, we just want this to be perfect.
No.
Money from these things it's not the reason.
It's a byproduct.
It's a byproduct.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to end, yeah?
Yeah, I love it.
I love
Awesome.
it. That's
Thanks,
great.
guys.
Yeah.
Love you, dudes.
Hey, hope y'all enjoyed it. We'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Later.